Providence isn't broken because you're not paying enough taxes. Providence is strained because City Hall keeps choosing the easy route by raising taxes first and explaining later. Tax control versus tax addiction. Can Providence survive tax crazy leaderships like we have now? I don't think so. No new taxes and no new bills from the City Hall every year. It's got to stop. The taxpayers need to create a tighter line. What City Hall can't keep crossing what's facts and what's opinions. Fact is, the fiscal year of 2026, Brett Smiley initially proposed a 7.5 tax levy increase. Fact, after negotiation, final fiscal year 2026 budget was 5.85 levy increase. Average residential property tax increase cited around 6% because of it. Fact, the state cap municipal tax levy increase was 4%, which we exceeded unless the General Assembly allows more. Fact, a Providence rent control conversation commonly includes a 4% cap on annual rent increase. That 4% is rent, not taxes. There was a bill that Representative Morales introduced. The bill concept mentioned by the Rhode Island General Assembly press would allow Providence to increase the 4% levy cap up to 7% and exempt residential properties from any 2026 property tax increase, unless short-term rentals. You can still argue your tax control message hard, which I think no tax increase at all. However, just keep the 4% rent cap and 4% tax levy cap from getting blended in together, because that's basically an 8% increase.
In the heart of Providence, where dreams take flight, voices rise, the chorus of the night. We gather around with hearts full of hope to build a future where we all can cope. Let's listen deep to each other's plea, finding common ground. We'll never be free without understanding. Our voices fade. Together we can change what we've been made. Show the talk in the right direction. Guide the path with kindness and clarity. With everyone, let's speak a better nation. Let's build bridges, not just walls of division.
Well, welcome back, Providence. This is Mike English, and this is the Old School Voters Podcast. No fluff, no political perfume, just straight talk. Today's episode 7 is tackling a question that hits every homeowner, every renter, every small business owner, and every family trying to survive out here. Tax control versus tax addiction. Can the city survive with leaders who treat taxes like a vending machine? They insert crisis, press the button, and collect money. Because here's the truth. Providence can raise taxes all it wants, but it can also raise people right out of the city. And if you want a hot city, you don't get there by punishing the people who already live here. Tax 101 is plain English. Before we argue, let's define reality. In Providence and in most cities, there are 3 things people confuse. The tax rate, the number they multiply by your assessed value, your tax bill, what you actually pay, and then the tax levy, how much total money the city plans to collect overall. And here's where people get played. City Hall says we lowered tax rate, but your assessed value went up, so your bill still raises to a higher number. The city council even put out a question and answer trying to explain this confusion, especially the difference between increasing the total levy and what that means for individual tax bills. Now, the other key piece, Island law generally caps municipality tax levy increase at 4% annually, unless the General Assembly authorizes more. So when you hear 4%, you got to ask, are we talking about the levy cap or are we talking rent cap or tax cap? Because those are different debates. In Smiley's approach to 2026, in April of 2025, Mayor Brett Smiley unveiled a $624 million 2026 budget and proposed a 7.5 increase in the tax levy, the total tax revenue collected. That plan also involves seeking state permission to go above the annual 4% levy cap. And the politics got real because the pain wasn't even shared. The city council said the original structure would have hit 2 to 5 unit homes the hardest, describing an average of 16% increase in the annual tax bill for those properties versus above 4%. And that's why we have 16% in the last 7 months going up in rent within the city. It's not rent control, it's tax control that we need. Rent control is only going up because of the taxes are going up. To the middle and lower class residents in Providence that own multifamily units. Now, after negotiation, the end result was that the 2026 budget accommodated a 5.85 levy increase below the original 7.5 proposal and described an average residential increase around 6%, with non-owner occupied 2 to 5 unit homes still facing the highest increase of 16%. And here's what that means in human terms. Public radio reported the typical homeowner's tax bill projected up 6%, around $250 on average, while some small landlords faced higher projected hikes. Numbers like 13% were discussed in the report. Now you can defend that as needed for school or needed for cost, but you can also criticize it as a reflex. When the city hall gets pressure, it goes right to the same toolbox, as this is the second tax increase in less than 3 years under Smiley's administration of only one term. This raises the levy and raised the bill. And this is where my excuse translator comes in. When they say it's complicated, it means we didn't prepare. So my plan, Michael English's plan, if elected mayor, no tax hike in my first 4 years of my administration. Now here's where I'm planting a flag clearly. In my first administration, I want tax control, no tax hikes. But let me be honest with you. You can't just chat no new taxes like it's magic. If you're going to freeze hikes, you need a plan that's as disciplined as it is bold. So here's the old school way to do it. A real no tax hike, operating systems of full operational and audit, public spending map, not a glossary, not a PDF. I mean a line-by-line reality check. 2, zero-based budgeting for selected departments, not last year's plus more. I want prove the need budgeting, starting at 0, not starting at a traditional number. 3, contract discipline and overtime discipline. Overtime can be legitimate, as we saw in the Providence Police with Brown University. Can also be a silent tax that pays its own way. If we bring in a new development, it can be a sweetheart deal that doesn't expand the base tax. Also, revenue that isn't property tax. Even Providence leadership has talked publicly about needing revenue ideas that don't rely only on property tax. It's not a left idea or a right idea. That's just a survival idea. My promise isn't no tax hikes because I feel like it. My promise is the taxpayers shouldn't be the default funding resource for the city hall. The lack of discipline. Now let's look at Morales and rent control. Don't mix the 4% debate. Let's address the other side of the compromise. Morales and rent control, a major talking point in Providence housing policy right now is a rent cap, often discussed as a 4% cap on an annual rent increase. Yet, in the last 6 months, the 16% increase was due to the 16% increase in the property tax. It's not the same thing as 4% tax increase. Now, here's an important detail that people miss. The Rhode Island General Assembly described a bill associated with Representative Morales that would let Providence exceed the 4% levy cap, but with constraints not to exceed 7%, and it would exempt residential properties from any 2026 property tax increase unless they're short-term rentals. So if we're going to criticize, let's criticize accurately. Rent control proposals often circle 4% rent caps. Tax levy fight circles the 4% levy cap and whether Providence can exceed it. If we had rent control proposals that circled 4% rent cap, landlords would only raise rents to cover property tax, not profit. So really, is landlords and rent increase the issue, or is it local government and tax increases? And there's a real debate here. Opponents argue rent control could affect revenue or property values. Supporters argue it prevents displacement and runaway rent spikes. My opinion as old school is simple. If you're going to regulate rent, you better also have a plan for the city's budget, because you can't fix affordability with one hand while City Hall is raising bills with the other. Now you're going to ask, can Providence survive a tax crazy leadership that we have now? I say no. Now the big question is asked, can the City Hall really do it? And if you elect me, yes, in the short term, because government can always squeeze more for a while, but long term, it becomes a self-inflicted wound. Higher taxes create pressure on small landlords. Higher rents, higher taxes create pressure on homeowners, people selling or leaving. Higher cost pressure, small businesses closing or price hike on their products. Then the tax base weakens. City halls raises taxes again. That's a doom loop. So here's my old school voter tax sanity test. If a leader can't answer these questions, they don't deserve your vote. What is your year one plan? Not a slogan, a checklist. What gets cut or restructured before you touch taxpayers? Because if the first move is always taxes, that's not leadership. That's autopilot. 3, how do you grow the base without changing the soul of Providence? You need growth that includes working people, not just the luxury 1%. What's your transparency standard? Because I'm sorry, when leaders say we're investigating, sometimes it's code for we're hiding behind the process. And 5, what is the plan for shocks like school settlements, pension pressures, inflation, whatever the next hit is? Providence had a tough 2026 situation. Education funding pressures were real and publicly discussed. But tough years are exactly when you find out whether your leadership has the discipline or just the tax buddy. So here, Providence doesn't need politicians who treat your paycheck like a refillable account. Providence needs tax control, spending control, and growth that pays. If you agree, share this episode with other homeowners, other renters, and small businesses, because this is not a niche topic. This is the topic. I'm Mike English, and this is the Old School Voters Podcast. Visit me at www.englishformayor.com. And if you'd like to volunteer, please call me at 401-300-9660. No new taxes doesn't mean no solution. It means City Hall finally has to act like the money is real. Till next time.